Well, after the Texas primary, it's been called that Mitt Romney has the Republican presidential nomination. But this is not stopping Ron Paul's very dedicated supporters. They're continuing to press on for delegates and make their mark at the GOP convention. In Louisiana, not only did Ron Paul win over half the delegates, but apparently, in an apparent snub to the Republican establishment, most of the delegates reportedly physically moved their chairs to turn their backs on the GOP chair appointed by the party at the state convention. But to break it down, Ron Paul won 27 of Louisiana's delegates versus Mitt Romney's 19. But on a bigger scale, Paul has only 137 delegates compared to Romney's monstrous lead with 1,191 delegates to be exact. So many are calling this a lost cause at this point, with the delegate math virtually impossible. So why are Paul supporters still putting up a fight? To talk about this, I'm joined now by Austin Peterson. He's director of production for FreedomWorks. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you.
So the numbers at this point, not looking so good. So why put in the time, the money, the effort to keep up the fight here?
There's a lot of great reasons. Well, because the numbers that you might be getting are from the Associated Press, which are based on estimates. Ron Paul has won the majority of delegates amongst 5 states, and some of those delegates are bound and some of them aren't bound. So some of them may be overtly Romney supporters from what they say, but they're actually Ron Paul supporters underneath. So what they're doing is they're playing this sort of a strategy, some of these delegates, where they're saying, yes, we support Mitt Romney, and those delegates may be added to Mitt Romney's count, but they're actually secret Ron Paul supporters. You see, delegates aren't legally required to vote for the person that the state says that they are bound to. They're only bound by the party rules to vote for the candidate that their state chose. And in many of those states, the person who won was someone like Rick Santorum, so those delegates are free to vote for whoever they wish. They may say that they're voting for Mitt Romney, but that's only because they don't want to be disenfranchised and they'd like to be able to vote for their actual conscience when they get to Tampa. So why give up when we're winning all of these caucuses and taking over states all across the United States? Why would you give up when you're winning?
We just saw the numbers there, and the numbers are so staggering in terms of the gap now between the delegate count between Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. So what is the reasoning behind trying to continue to amass those delegates?
Because think about the future. Imagine yourself a young Ron Paul supporter back in 2008, and Ron Paul told you that the goal was to take over the Republican Party and to change it and restore it back to its Republican roots, to its small r Republican roots. Now, 2012 has rolled around, and you have taken over successfully the state party of Colorado, Louisiana, a couple of other states that I can't remember off the top of my head that we've done. We've taken over these Republican parties. Now imagine you're no longer a young Ron Paul supporter in 2016 and Senator Rand Paul is running for office. Well, you are now in charge of 5 Republican state parties. So you now have maximized your power to hand the nomination to a candidate that you find far better. So there's a great reason to keep going and fighting, because when Ron Paul supporters take over leadership positions of these states in the future, their influence will be even much more magnified.
So at this point, would you say it's more about having a voice in the party's platform?
I would say so, but there's all sorts of shenanigans that Ron Paul delegates can play at the convention. There's all sorts of things that can happen. Now remember, Mitt Romney has always been a flip-flopper. What does Mitt Romney believe? You know, nobody really knows what Mitt Romney believes. Politicians, they say, always go to where the votes are. They go to where they pander to power blocks, or they power to minorities, loud vocal minorities. Well, why can't Ron Paul supporters, or our power block that we've created, be the minority that Romney has to pander to? Why can't we force him through the threat of denying our votes to him by saying, you need to come over to our side and you need to pander to us? Why should we allow Mitt Romney to pander to all these other minority groups? Why shouldn't he pander to our issues like auditing the Fed? Why shouldn't he pander to all of our issues like bringing the troops home? You see, if we continue to exert pressure in these state parties, through these delegations, through these caucuses, Mitt Romney is going to realize that he's going to have to start talking to our issues or he's going to lose our votes.
At this point, do you think there's any feasible way for Ron Paul to win, to pull it off, to get those delegates?
I would like to hold out hope that he possibly could, that there could be some miracle that would occur after the first round of voting, that Mitt Romney would not be able to do it, and we would have a brokered convention. I like that idea just because I like, more democracy, the idea that people could have more choices. So I'd like to think that it could happen. It seems reasonable that it wouldn't, but there's so many other things that can be, so many other battles that can be won fighting towards that goal that there's no reason to stop trying.
So, Paul, he officially suspended his campaign. He's going to stop spending money, but he still, is focusing on this delegate strategy. And many say that what he's really trying to do is make his mark on the GOP at the coming convention. Do you think that could be the case? And if that's so, how is he trying to change the dialogue there?
Well, imagine what happened in 2008. He was not even invited to the Republican National Convention, and now he may have a chance through his delegates to gain a primetime speaking role at that convention. What an epic, glorious event that would be for Ron Paul supporters to deliver them out of the wilderness and to come into the light and be able to say, hey, look, our movement is legitimized. You will allow Ron Paul to speak and say whatever it is that he wants to say, and even if the mainstream Republican Party doesn't like some of the things that he has to say, they have to pander to us. They have to listen to us, and our movement will be legitimized by allowing Ron Paul that speaking spot at the convention, because we will have demanded it, and we will have worked for it, and we will have forced it by our actions over the last few years.
Now, would Ron Paul backers, like yourself, I know you described yourself as a Ron Paul fanatic, I think you said, would you ever support Mitt Romney?
I've said that there is only one way that I would ever support Mitt Romney, and it would mean that I think they're very, very conservative proposals. If Ron Paul or Rand Paul were offered the vice presidential spot, if Judge Anna Napolitano, Ron Paul's best buddy, were offered Attorney General or perhaps the Supreme Court position, perhaps, and there was an audit of the Fed and a firing of Ben Bernanke, then that is the type of thing that would make me say, well, Mitt Romney has finally flipped-flopped over to be a libertarian, and now it's time to get on board. Because the thing is that Ron Paul has never compromised on these kinds of things in his life, and I really trust him. And I know that he would not do something that I think would alienate his people. So even if some people would see that as a sellout, I would see it more as a time for the libertarians to come out of the wilderness.
All right. Sorry, we are out of time, but thank you so much, Austin, for coming on the show. That was Austin Peterson, Director of Production for FreedomWorks.
Thank you.